For the last 118 years, this Bedlam matchup has always been something that a lot of Oklahoma State fans ended up on the wrong side of. This arguably is the biggest Bedlam of all time, not only because it's the last, but because of Ollie Gordon and the five-way tie for first place.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. We are live here on campus. Swing by, say hi over here at the Ag Hall tailgate. You go down Monroe, it's the only poppin' tailgate. And the vibe on campus is not only phenomenal, but you can feel the intensity. You can feel matchup becoming a little bit bigger than normal, as it should be. The last Bedlam of all time should be bigger than ever. If you're looking at the prospect up in the questions about my comments, obviously it does add a little bit of extra fuel to this particular fire. There's a lot of things storyline wise that we could talk about. OU is obviously going to do everything in their power to try to stop Ollie Gordon. We welcome that challenge. Ollie Gordon welcomes that challenge. And even more than Ollie, I would say that the offensive line is ready to get this done. That seems to be, to me, the biggest thing that a lot of OU fans or punditry in general seem to overlook. It's the fact that the offensive line can not only control the game, but the later the game gets, regardless of rotation, the better Ollie Gordon gets. And I think this could be another one of those situations where the later the game gets, the better Ollie Gordon could potentially be. Same is going to be said about the offensive line. I'll say it because it needs to be said. The Oklahoma defensive line is not prepared. They are not ready. That includes Trace Ford, not limited to, of course. But as we look at this potential matchup, I really do feel like the offensive line is going to have the advantage here. It's going to start, stop, and end with that. Of course, Ollie Gordon is going to be the story for the majority of the game. But the offensive line, I think, is likely to be the as well. Now, in segment 3 here, we'll talk about a little bit more of the keys to the game. But I think it would behoove everybody out there to pay attention to the fact that Jeremy Smith and some of the legends that we've had previously have been able to experience this game. And that's what I'm kind of trying to get to, is this is an experience. This is not just a traditional football game, nor should it be. Brett Yormark has done a very good job getting the Big 12 to where it is now. But from a marketability standpoint, we all know that the future success of the Big 12 is going to ride on the potential rivalries. The lack of setup for rivalries is maybe a little bit of a concern for the future scheduling. But realistically, if you look at the name brands that are coming in next year, mainly Utah, Oklahoma State should be at the top of that list. We've had this conversation before. Oklahoma has been the nemesis. It has been the Achilles heel and the biggest problem for all Oklahoma State fans. This is the opportunity to exercise those demons, because we all know, as much as that record does in fact matter, they're gone. So this one definitely matters significantly more. And as we view their game plan, there's a lot of layers to this thing. There's a whole lot of layers to this. From a defensive standpoint, I think Trey Rucker is going to be instrumental to getting this particular W done, primarily because of what they're going to try to do. Guys, they're a throwing team, right? We all know that. Our defensive line, maybe not statistically, has completely revolutionized the running game, but they've done more than enough to open up holes for the guys in the back end. which is precisely why I do feel like that somebody like Trey Rucker is going to have a massive game. We're going to do everything that we can with our back end guys to make sure that we don't get burned deep. Jalil Farouk is a good wide receiver. Nick Anderson is a good wide receiver. Corey Black has had a little bit of a propensity this year to get burnt sometimes. So OU is going to try to exploit that, which is fine. If we can make sure that we don't get beat over top, and then we're sound and secure in the mid-range tackling game, which is exactly where somebody like a Trey Rucker seems to show his teeth a little bit more. Not having somebody like a Lyric Rawls, I do think in this game is going to kind of pop up a little bit from the run support angle. But then you have to talk about Cameron Epps. Cameron Epps being in the top 10 in the Big 12 in interceptions, this could be another opportunity for him to continue that trajectory, right? Before the season, we pegged people like Cameron Epps and Deshaun Brown as potential NFL guys. I think the last few weeks has been able to show everybody that Deshaun Brown realistically has done very good all year. He just doesn't pop up on the stat sheet because he does a lot of things very similar to Xavier Benson that aren't necessarily designed to be on the stat sheet. Sometimes you got to do the ugly stuff, the dirty stuff, the nasty stuff that not everybody wants to do. And that's exactly what the defensive line has been able to do this year. I don't see that changing a whole lot this game. Right? Everybody can talk all they want about, the Ollie Gordon scenario and the fact that OU doesn't really seem to have the ability to run the ball very well. And you'd be smart in doing so. But what we do defensively, it typically sets guys up, right? That's kind of the conversation we've had to have about the defensive line. And the same is to be said about the linebacker position as well. We have guys that set other guys up, which means they don't exactly pop up on the stat sheet, right? They don't get all the recognition. But at the end of the day, those are the guys that are pretty instrumental in making sure that everybody else has the ability to be successful. Xavier Benson, if he continues to eat up that lead block, whether it be a fullback or a tight end, which opens things up for Nick Martin, that's going to be a key for today. But again, we can keep circling the wagons to Trey Rucker. We've had conversations before the season and during the season about Trey Rucker's aggressiveness. It's kind of like Calvin Bundage, right? And it seems to potentially get him in trouble at times. This is a game where everybody rocking the orange and black is going to want to see Trey Rucker go full out, man. It doesn't matter. At this point in time in the season, just go for broke. Be aggressive. Be aggressive. Right? I'm not a cheerleader, but I could maybe sound like one today because that should be the theme as it has been for the last few weeks. The more aggressive team that sets the tone should have the leg up in this game. We're the better running team. You could say they're definitely the better passing team. Obviously, statistically, there's some evidence behind that. But from a defensive side of the ball, guys, it's going to take a little bit of a Herculean effort by some group of guys. I don't care if it's the safeties. I don't care if it's the linebackers. I don't care if it's the deep guys. But again, the underneath stuff should be available. Whether we're playing a cover 2 or cover 3 type of shell look, getting burned would be a recipe for disaster for Oklahoma State. Just like from an OU perspective, allowing Ollie Gordon to get loose for another 260, 270, 280 yards, that would be a disastrous situation for OU. As the food's arrived. This is good. This is good. I could do this all day, every day. All right. The vibe on campus is amazing. You're not seeing a whole lot of crimson. There's a little bit sprinkled in here, but it's a lot of orange, which is what we want to see. If Trey Rucker can kind of take that next step, in my personal opinion, it needs to be this game. If Xavier Benson's going to eat up the lead blocks and going to open things up for Nick Martin, that should also open some things up for somebody like Lyric Rawls, who, missing him's not good, which is exactly why I think Trey Rucker has to have a massive game today. If Trey Rucker can handle the in-between stuff and help them whenever they get out on the flat, whenever they leak the tail back out, that's going to allow the back end to play more of a shell, and play more of a secondary alignment that's not going to allow them to get beat so much. We have been deceived by play action quite a bit this season. So OU obviously is going to be pretty intelligent in doing that. Oh, hold on. We got some feeds coming in. Gundy is scared. Okay. Okay. We got some crap talking going on. See, this is a ridiculous statement. I'm actually glad that Mr. Blue Diamond put this up. We've covered this before. Gundy has nothing to do with the future schedule. Like, I know people like to pretend that because he's Mike Gundy that he can just walk around, who play, when we play, how we play. Guys, I'll give Gundy a hard time when it is 100% deserved. But this is just a ridiculous statement that OU fans continue to cling to. His press conferences, I will admit, right, they don't necessarily invoke a lot of confidence in the way that he handles or approaches the game. That's sure. But to pretend that he has any hand in whether we do or do not play OU in the future, it's just ridiculous. But it's another one of the things that OU fans have to cling to when they're grasping, right? They're grasping for straws and looking for things positively to talk about coming into this game. I think that it's pretty evident by the amount of talking that OU fans have been doing recently that this game does in fact matter, not just because it's their last one, not just because it's going to be instrumental in the race for the Big 12 with the 5-way tie for first place. It's a very, very big day. Gundy doesn't care about what. See, at Y Zone, I don't agree with that. Why should Gundy not care about Bedlam? Like I don't get on that one. You know what? I like this. Yeah, guys, this is the game where you can let the hate flow. Let the hate flow, rivers of orange, and I am in it to win it. I can't wait, guys. I didn't go to bed till 4:30 in the morning. So not only am I going on a few hours of sleep, I also ended up having the Bedlam Breakfast of Champions this morning. So I might have a couple extra, what should I call them? Spirits? Yeah. I have spirit, and I've got the spirits in me today. When I look at this last Bedlam, and I look at Gundy's record, yes, it is cause for concern. Why should he care about the Bedlam? Because it's always the biggest game of the year. By and large, okay, let's trace this thing back here, okay? Let's trace this back. In the last 18, 19 years, how many of these games have been decided by more than 7, 8 points? 4, 5, maybe, right? These games matter more to Oklahoma State than OU. I think that's pretty fair to break down as well. Why should Gundy care? Because anytime you beat OU, it automatically catapults you upwards, whether it be in the CFP rankings, CP, coaches, national perception. It doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter if they were in the SEC as well. This is a game that everybody can get up for. This is a game that brings instantaneous eyeballs to Stillwater America. That's good for recruiting. And if you can't lock down your state in recruiting, you're probably going to have a little bit of a difficult proposition of continuing a trajectory of constant success. Lincoln Riley was such a massive asshat when it came to in-state recruiting. It opened the door for Oklahoma State to capitalize. If we don't have that game on our schedule anymore, we need to make sure that we have the last lap. And the last lap is this game. Give me Trey Rucker, right? I think when you look at some of the keys to victory and why this Bedlam needs to matter a little bit more, it's because of guys like Trey Rucker. That crazy Calvin Bundage playing with a reckless abandon that he's known for, we need more of that today. If we get a couple 15-yarders, it's okay. It's okay. It's not a big deal. F the zeros. Greg, I can't put that up here. I mean, the language, Cody, who is locking down the state? Yeah, right now, OU is. They are, right? And I actually had this conversation yesterday with a couple of former Cowboys in regards to right now, the state of Oklahoma is kind of divided. The eastern half of the state right now does definitely have a significantly better talent pool. OU is getting the eastern side of the state. Oklahoma State is not, right? We seem to be more focused on maybe the western side of the state. If you go back and look at 2011, most of the guys on that squad that were Okies, they were all from the Tulsa or East area. That is an area that Brett Venables has obviously been able to focus on since he's been at OU. I'm not going to say that we've given up on it, right? But we haven't put a concerted effort into recruiting that side of the state as much recently, which is, again, why this game is massively important. The implications are huge. The standings from the Big 12 are huge, and what it could potentially do for future in-state recruits are huge. Guys, we've had some in-state recruits stop by today already because this does matter more. It matters to the in-state kids, and I do know that our bread and butter has typically been the state of Texas. We have expanded our recruiting prowess quite a bit recently. We're getting guys from Utah and California, Louisiana, Mississippi on a pretty regular basis now. If you're an O State fan growing up or even an OU fan growing up, Oklahoma State didn't get that big of a plethora of guys to choose from. We have that now. But you need the Colin Olivers. You need the Kendall Daniels. You need the Jeremy Smiths of the world. Right? I mean, we could talk all day about Danny Okoye. Yeah. There's some people here know how I feel about the Danny Okoye situation. We don't have to, though, right? It is what it is. Where we're looking at now is the future of Oklahoma State. And if we can lock down most of the state in recruiting, like we were able to do a little bit when Lincoln Riley was here, this SEC Big 12 dichotomy changes, right? Because it's the same reason a lot of people did, in fact, go to OU. It's because winning championships is fun. Winning trophies matters. Winning games matters. If OU goes to the SEC, and I don't think that they're going to be terrible, right? I know there's a decent amount of OU fans that know my perception on how they're going to fare in the SEC. But not only do I think they're going to be decent, I think that them being pretty good alongside Texas is inherently going to look better on the Big 12, right? So I'm not completely on this train of I hope OU loses every game in the SEC. I don't get that. I think it's better for Oklahoma State if they look good, but at the same time, they're looking to be reminiscent to what our stand maybe have, which is be really, really good, always top 3, top 4, and every 4 years be good enough to compete for a title. I do see that being a potential option for but again, we're talking about recruiting and why, because the guys that are going to help you make sure that reverberation around them is always to do a little bit more, to work a little bit harder, because it does mean a little bit more. I don't care what anybody says. If you're an Okie, you likely dream of playing for one of these two schools. There you go, Greg. There you go, Greg. I'll throw that one up there, buddy. Greg Swaim, yes, sir. Raise your hand if OU sucks. I feel it. This game sets Oklahoma State fans up for a lot of heartache, a lot of disappointment over the years. But again, if Mike Gundy can be more aggressive in this one than maybe previously, I like our chances. From a talent perspective, I do think we're better. We can run this down. That's fine. OU's better at quarterback. Cool. We got that. 73,000 miles. Awesome. Wide receiver, statistically speaking, OU is considerably better. So if you want to go with that, that's fine. I personally do have a lot of faith in Leon Johnson. Brendan Presley has always been big time in Bedlams. I don't see that changing for this game whatsoever. Defensive line. OU's defensive line is extremely overrated. Our offensive line is going to show that today. But if you want to say statistically, kind of like wide receivers, OU has a better D-line, cool. OU doesn't have a better O-line. There's not a statistical or physical measure that says otherwise. If you want to say that OU's better at linebacker, with a fully healthy Danny Stutzman, maybe, but he's not. He's not fully healthy. And Kanak is a young cat. He's talented, yes, but he's very young. They don't have a Nick Martin without a full healthy Stutzman. They just don't, right? And when you look at the back end, I know Bowman, Billy, what is that? Billy Bowman? That's his name, right? Yeah. He's pretty good. Okay. I answer that. But outside of that and Gentry, not impressed. Matter of fact, if I'm O State, I'm putting Leon Johnson on Gentry from the very get-go, and I'm giving 50-50 balls, and I'm going to make Leon Johnson show them very early on that it's going to be a long day. Our old buddy, Pat Jones, likes to talk about how anybody 60 years old and up in that studio could rush for 280 yards, 271 yards, 262 yards like Ollie Gordon has because we haven't played anybody. That is exactly the type of bulletin board material that our offensive line is going to use to not only manhandle OU today, but I firmly believe that we're going to be able to throw them down like a rag doll. They're not going to be anticipating, understanding, or ready for what this offensive line can provide. And I'm not just talking about the running game. I'm talking about the pass pro side of things. You know they're going to load the box. You know they're going to try to stop Ollie. They're going to give us some opportunities in the back end, which is exactly why we win our 50-50 balls. Whether it be Blaine Green, whether it be Brennan Presley, Johnson, I think they're overrated. Numbers are a little because of what they're able to do offensively, right? The number of snaps is different than Oklahoma State. The number of opportunities that they've had to be successful, in my personal opinion, are not the same. They're not on the same page. If you looked at the schedule before the year, Oklahoma State had an easier schedule than OU, right? But if you look at the teams and what they've done this season, I don't think that's the case. Guys, we heard from OU Nation over and over and over and over about how difficult we were going to have with defense. Yeah, it's good. 315 yards on the ground, good. It's 271 yards by one guy, good. Yes. And that's the same defensive line that OU fans were screaming up and down, oh, you're not ready for that Cincinnati defensive line. And that's the same thing that we're saying today. OU's defensive line, including Trace Ford, is not ready or prepared for this offensive line of Oklahoma State. We said it before the season. Mike Gundy even said it before the season, but people just did not want to listen. This is the best offensive line since Joe Wickline left. So you got to go back to Bedlam and won the damn Big 12 title. I'm getting fired up. Oh, I'm sweating my face off. Yeah, guys, I was only going to do like a 15-minute test show, to be honest, but I got going. OU will be 500 most years in the SEC. I think they'll be a little bit better than that. I do. K-State, Texas. Yeah, it's a big game. We're all Purple Power Cat fans today, right? Of course. But just like the rest of Big 12 country, Cowboys fans. I am pretty interested in Iowa State game, right? Rock Hawk, Jayhawk. We've been on that train for a little bit here now. Because when you look at OU and you look at Texas, to be honest with you, they concern me less. Like Iowa State had our number, right, for quite some time. A lot of the years, 2011, 2021, both years we lost to Iowa State, right? 2011 kicked us out of the national title. Well, it shouldn't have. It began to, but then we put an ever-loving whooping on OU, 44-10, right? Does that sound familiar? We lost to Iowa State, 2021. Put ourselves in a position to win a Big 12 title, but the Iowa State loss looms large. So I'm more concerned about Iowa State in Arlington than I would be OU or Texas. And I'm sure there's some OU fans who call me crazy. That's great. Oh, yeah, no, that's not good. Lee Corso picked OSU. That's never good. That's well, and it's funny you brought that up. Um, when you look at the idea that there's not game day here, it could be worse, guys. I'm pretty sure we're like 0-5. Oh, we might be like 1-6, maybe. And college game day matchups in Slaughter. OU fans wanted no part of a night game, right? And it's it on campus as to why they didn't want any part of it. But it's all right. I do think that we're prepared to hand them the business. All right, keys to victory. I think we do need to establish the passing game. If we can establish early on that we're going to win the 50-50 balls against the secondary of OU, then we can transition to a little bit more of the run game. We know what they're going to do. They're going to try to stop Ollie. They're going to put 7-8 men in the box. They're going to try to creep an extra safety up, which means they're going to be susceptible to what? To play action. Yeah, you guessed it. Alan Bowman's a good play action dude. We don't really dial up a lot of deep shots, but everybody that's showing up to stop Ollie sets himself up to be burnt off of play action deep. So, number one, give me Leon Johnson, give me BP, give me some of these 50-50 balls early so we can set that tone, make them be more honest in the back end, which will allow us to open up the Ollie Gordon game, yeah? I think the other big thing we've already hit on is I need to see a big game out of the safety position. Kendall Daniels is bound to determine to make sure that he doesn't get beat by Nick Anderson or Jalil Farouk. I do think that he's going to help set the trend. But again, Trey Rucker's going to be big in this game. Xavier Benson's going to set him up. They're going to try to put an extra hat here and there on Nick Martin, which means Trey Rucker, linebacker that gets beaten coverage sometimes. This is one of those games. If he gets beaten coverage a few times, so be it. If he's a couple heads up, he knocks helmets 6 ways from Sunday up into the seats, I'm happy. Trey Rucker needs to bring the pain. And I think the final thing for me that we haven't really talked about is our D-line. Our D-line isn't sexy statistically. Our D-line doesn't pop off the charts. Our D-line does a job, and their job is to dominate an area of operation. The better they dominate that area of operation and they force the opposite team to put an extra hat in there, it frees up the back end guys like Trey Rucker. So if the defensive line can get a little bit more push, it doesn't have to be a lot, just a little bit more, and they can dominate those area of operation, and they require the centers and the guards to double team so they can't pull, I think those are the secrets to success for us today. All right, a couple more of these up here before we skedaddle. Dude, I honestly think Brent Venables is going to be pretty good for them. All right, predictions. OSU 28, OU 10. I like that. I'll keep that one up here for a second. Chicken, what do you got? Chicken's got OU 38, O State 24. I mean, we'll see. Greg Swaim says 72-0. Good guys. That a baby, Greg. All right, yeah, that's good. I like that one. My prediction. It's a very nice day. So I'm going to 45, 38 Cowboys. 45-38 Cowboys. And, yeah, we'll be here for a little while longer still yet. We might actually, depending on how the game goes, roll back here. So if you get on campus, we're the only tailgate on Monroe that's worth a hoot. So if you go down Monroe, look for Ag Hall, feel free to stop by. To all of the players, parents, recruits, and everybody that have stopped by thus far, thank you. You guys are the real MVPs. Greatly appreciate it. The love has been absolutely fantastic. I do know that there's a fairly significant Cody hater crowd. I hope they're here today. And feel free to stop by, say hi, and say your piece. All right, one last question, Greg. What's the deal with Brent Venables' face? Greg, hey man, you need to bring your wazoo by here, buddy. All right, y'all. That's all we're gonna have for this one. Feel free to stop by, take a shot, have a beer, drink some food, talk some crap until the post game, which I'll be honest with you. I'm glad that I did the full 30-minute pregame because I don't know what postgame is going to look like. I'll be honest with you. I don't walk real good as it is, but if I can't hop successfully after the game, probably shouldn't jump on a camera. So we might have to do the postgame tomorrow. It depends on how it goes. I'm either going to be crying tears of whiskey, or I'm going to be elated in the process. So depending on how the game goes, will be kind of contingent upon what the postgame show looks like. I got some food to eat. I got some beer to drink. We got some games to win. Alrighty. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. And most importantly, thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here on Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to come here. Feel free to stop by. Let's have some fun. Let's let the hate flow today, rivers of orange, and be proud about it. The Cowboys get or did. Mike Gundy exercises his demons with aggressive play calling. Right? And it's the W. All righty. Go Cowboys. Go Pokes. OU, guess what? You suck. And you're going to suck again at the end of this one. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.